Hello, brothers and sisters. We're the brothers from the Gathering of Christ Church. It took us some time to finally put up this particular topic, but we wanted to make sure that it was well studied, well versed, and we'll take our time with this one. We need you to follow us. If you have a King James Version Bible, you'll need that. If you have a Josephus, you'll need that. You might have seen on a few of our videos us showing that the Negroes in America are in fact the true Jews. We went through many studies, and if you go to a few of our past clips, you can see, you'll know if you link up the precepts that the Negroes in America are in fact the true Jews. But we've been getting a lot of letters, some good, some bad. Some of the letters we receive, they say, how can you be the Jews when the Jewish people over there in America, the Jewish people over there in Israel today are the Jews. And they try to send us hate mail and things of that nature or what have you. And, we brush it off because, truth is truth and truth cannot be denied. So we're saying that to say that in order for us to prove this fact even further, we have to show you who we are not. Let's go into who we are not. Okay? We're going to use the Zondervan Bible Dictionary. We're going to use the Josephus, and we'll use the Bible. Now, this is profound history and bibliography and precepts. We'll also show at the very end of this lesson why they do not want you to learn this in the church. They'll tell you that it doesn't matter who you are, but yet part of the Christian doctrine is that the black people over here in America are suffering a curse of Cain or Canaan, which was written of in the Bible, the grandson of Noah. But so it's like they're rubbing you on both sides. On one side, they're telling you it doesn't matter, but subliminally in their churches and their institution, they're leading you to a people that were born to be slaves. We're going to show you that at the very end. Who are we not? Now, that's just the other religions and the people, but let's focus on our people for a second. Because the Negroes in America or abroad that are scattered, because you've been deprived of your identity, and you've been deprived of your heritage, you tend to pick up anything that shows any understanding that remotely will give you some identities, that some sense of purpose. So we have many people, especially here in America, who are looking into this Afrocentric religion now, or trying to get some type of, I'm from Africa, all right? You have some of our people going into the fact that, or they're saying that, I'm not going to say it's fact, they're saying that they're Egyptians. And ask you, have you seen the ISIS papers or the Egyptian Book of the Dead? But yet, they can't show us any proof how they are Egyptians. Right? They can relate to the slave ships and their parents coming over in cargo slavery, but they can't go from Africa and show how their people ran from Egypt into Western Africa and to show what tribes they're from. But they'll hold on to Egyptology. Kemet. You have some people think that they are Ethiopians or what have you, but with no proof. Why do they think they're Africans? And why, when you say you're Africans, no one tried to argue with you? Why the whole earth will accept the fact that you will claim that you're an African with no pushback? Why? Because if you say you're that, you're nowhere close to the truth. You're going to find out today that you're actually, by saying you're African, you are totally away from your heritage, your understanding, and you're not a threat to this society, or, because you're right where they want you. They want you to think you're something outside of the chosen people of God. We're going to prove that. But first, we have some people thinking they're Egyptians and saying that the Egyptians have the greatest history on earth. We're going to show you why Egypt became so great. All right? Today you even have the West Indian style of Israel teaching. The Haile Selassie. Right? We're going to see if that's the same. And I'm perplexed with that, because how can Israel, which came out of the seed of Shem, the Ethiopians who came out of the seed of Ham? Two separate families. But someplace in history, Ethiopians thought for some reason that they're Israel. All right? And because black people, I'm going to say black people, or so-called black people, have been deprived of national origin or understanding of themselves, they have picked up all these different philosophies and understandings. So you can have one family. Now all the blood, the same blood is going through all these people's veins in this house. You have the mother, father, you can have a few children. You can have the father who's following Egyptology. Same blood now. You can have the mother who said, I'm following Haile Selassie. You can have a child over here dealing with some African voodoo mess. And another one Afrocentric dealing with something. All these the same family, but are dealing with all these different African philosophies. Because, quote unquote, I want to get away from, as they say, the teaching of the white man. But yet you're falling into the same trap. Because it wasn't just the white man that lied to you. Per se, if you're talking about the white man, you're going to find out the Africans lied to you, the East Indians lied to you, the Asians lied to you. It was not just a one-man conspiracy. Because in order for these nations to rule the earth, they had to come together in a group to enslave the children of Israel. How do we know that? It's Psalms 83. Let's start there. Psalm 83 and 1. Read that.
Keep not thy silence, O power. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult.
The Lord says, thine enemies make a tumult. That means all the enemies of the Most High. And how do you become an enemy of God? By following other gods. So all these nations that are following other gods have made a tumult, which means they have an uprising. They have come together and did what?
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
They have taken crafty counsel against God's people. So they're up in these, with Psalms 83. They're up in these high buildings, these UN buildings. And they're taking crafty counsel against God's people. Read.
And consulted against thy hidden ones.
And they are consulting against the hidden ones. Now the hidden ones are the people that have no idea who are, because your identity has been hidden. So because you don't know who you are, you're dabbling into everything. Sounds familiar? Who could these hidden ones be? Read.
They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation.
They said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation. We must work together so that these people will never understand that they are from a nation. Now you can't say you're from the nation of Africa because Africa was named after a European. Leo Scipio's Africanus. So you still falling into the trap thinking that, okay, I'm going to leave the white man understanding and be Afrocentric. Well, folks, Africa was named after a European. And none of you come from Leo Scipio's Africanus. Before that European conquered or put his name on that land, the landmass was called Ham. H-A-M. Okay? So they said, let us cut them off from being a nation, read.
That the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
That's the whole truth. They came together and said, let's make sure that we stop these people from understanding their nation so that the name of Israel shall be no more in remembrance. So that means the real people will not remember they are the children of Israel if this plan is executed perfectly. You know he has to be talking about us because we hear about Israel now, but it's with some other people. They didn't cut them off from not knowing that they're Israel. It's talking about the hidden one. Right? Read.
For they have consulted together with one consent.
They are together. Even the Africans. Read.
They are confederate against thee.
And they are confederate against us. Because as long as the two people stay down, they have rulership and dominion. I need y'all to examine this for a second, brothers and sisters. The UN does not only comprise of Europeans. The UN have all people together under one consent. Every nation on the earth has a seat on the UN. They're together. Because as long as God's people are on the bottom and have no knowledge and have no power, they can stay in rulership. You think the East Indians that come over here don't know your rich history? You lost your history in slavery. They didn't lose your history. Our history predated America before America was inhabited. They knew who we were. They know it. They know it when they set up these stores in your neighborhood. They know it. You lost your history. They didn't lose your history. But they won't tell you. Everybody talking about the white man, white man, white man. It's Africans that's not telling you you're Israel. It's East Indians coming over here and Persians coming over here. And Arabs coming over here not telling you the truth. It's going to tell you that. Read.
The tabernacles of Edom.
Now it's identifying the people that have come together to say, let us cut them off from being a nation. The tabernacle of Edom, we know, which is a purebred Edomite or the European. Read.
And the Ishmaelites.
Who's that? The Arabs. The Arabs. You think Europeans came on the land and took slaves? Are you kidding me? The only thing they had to provide is the transportation. Who was able to get us to those shores? You had Arabs doing slave trade. That was one of the biggest money-making or ecosystems during that time period. It was Arab that was rounding us up. Yeah, assalamu alaikum. Ishmael. Now the Lord is identifying all the nations that are in confederate against us. Read.
Of Moab and the Hagarenes.
Moab is your modern day Palestinians. Your modern day people that was on the borders. Because how could they take us down in 70 AD unless they had help for those that was around our borders? Moab and Ammon never left the borders outside of Israel. They also helped the nations take us down. Read.
Gebal and Ammon and Amalek.
And Amalek. Read on.
The Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre.
The Philistines, who are they? Africans. Okay? It was Africans that helped enslave you and is keeping the rod. And it's amazing. We say we all these different Africans over here. We Egyptians. We Ethiopians. Or we're Africans and try to hold on to this African history, walking down the street with a straw thing like you got flowers around you or something, trying to act African, But yet, why your brothers haven't received you back home yet? Hey, your brothers. If you're Egyptians, why you don't go home? Why the only thing you can do is come out of your pocket and buy something from the Africans? Why they don't say, brother, come home with me. Come home with me, brother. Because why? Ignorance is profitable. If you believe you're an Egyptian, I can sell you Egyptology. I can sell you that kente cloth. I can sell you the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And I can have you uphold my God over yours. Ignorance is profitable. Okay? Read that part again about the Philistines.
And Gabal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Sarid.
Go ahead.
Asher also is joined with them. They have helped the children of Lot.
They have helped, you're talking about the Middle Easterns. They have helped the children of Lot. So they have helped all these different nations take the true people of God down. Read.
Do unto them as unto the Midianites.
Go down to the 10th verse for me.
Which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth.
They became as dung for the earth. That means Israel fell and became like dung. That's what comes out of the drought. Read the 12th verse.
Who said, let us take to ourselves the house of God in possession.
So they all came together and say, let's take the houses of God in possession. So in order to keep Israel a possession, the first thing they must do is take away your identity. You'll spend the rest of your life trying to figure out who you are. That's a perfect slave. It happened in slavery. Y'all seen Roots? You all seen it. What's your name? Kunta Kinte? I don't think so. What's your name? 6 or 7 times. Then, you understand? And then it came out. Toby. Okay now, you Toby. Alright? We don't need no Kunta Kinte. We don't need no identification of your former self. You are who we say you are. Okay? And it kills me every year. Black History Month. That's a joke. They give you the shortest month of the year. That's number one. Number two, the only history you have is people that are conditioned slaves. You mean to tell me your history go to the slave ship and that's it? Right? That's it. They said what? Read it again. They said what?
Who said, let us take to ourselves the house of God in possession.
They said, let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. Let's use them for money. And we can't tell them that they're the chosen people. That's not fiscally sound. That's not intelligent there. We cannot tell them that they are the children of God. Let's take them in possession and do what?
Who said, let us take to ourselves the house of God in possession. Oh my God, make them like a wheel as the stubble before the wind.
So the Lord is going to bring judgment based on what they've done. Because they know who we are. But they won't tell us. Because if they told you, if they actually told you you were the children of Israel, how much you think they'll make in these churches anymore? All the churches is empty because there's no more Sunday service. Because the Israelites follow the Sabbath. How many of you are going to be Buddhists and know that you're Israel? Or any other religion if you know you're Israel? How many of you are going to say Assalamu alaikum when you realize it was the Arabs that sold you into your captivity? And it's getting paid off for you. If you know you're Israel, no more kufis, no more prayer rugs. That's money, man. That's finances. They need you to be ignorant. All right? Now, let's find out who are the sons of Ham. Somebody get me a Bible dictionary before we go to 2 Kings to start this thing. Thank you, brother. I'm going to ask the Negroes out there, because we're speaking to you right now, the so-called Negroes, and they'll never teach you this in our modern-day institutions, your schools or your churches. The NAACP say they for colored people, but yet they never told you the children of Israel. Somebody get ham out of the Bible dictionary for me. Let's find out. And we didn't print this up. Okay? Zondervan printed this. Brother, can you please read the definition of ham?
Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood.
So he was one of 8 persons to live through the flood. Ham was the youngest son of Noah. Read on.
He became the progenitor of the dark races.
He became the what?
The progenitor of the dark races.
He became the father of the dark races. So you would think that includes us, right? We're dark. But there's one footnote he put in here. What did it say after that?
Not the Negroes.
Not the what?
Not the Negroes.
So even Zondervan knows, out of the Bible dictionary, that the Negroes that were sold here in captivity is not from Ham. That's big. Then it identified the 4 families of Ham. Let's get them.
But the Egyptians.
Egyptians. They enslaved Israel. So you know that they're not Israel. The Egyptians, who are what? African. We're not from Egyptians. Read.
Ethiopians.
Ethiopians. We are not Ethiopian. Read.
Libyans.
Libyans, which are North Africans. Read.
And Canaanites.
And Canaanites, which are South Africans. The Negroes can't say they're from any of these 4 families. Just because you were in Africa does not mean you're African. The land does not determine the nation. How do we know that? If you're born on a ship in the middle of the water, are you part Pacific Ocean? The landmass does not determine the nation. The sea determines the nation.
Yep. Wake
So
up.
the question you should ask, well, if I'm not African, how did I get into Africa? And how do we eventually get to America if I'm an Israelite? Those are the questions you should be asking. How did you get in Africa? You ran into Africa in 70 A.D., running from Roman persecution and slavery. That's history. You can read that in the book of Babylon and Timbuktu. Many historians know that. Okay? We stayed there for about 12 to 1300 years. Then we were sold. They didn't go to Egypt. They didn't go to Ethiopia.
And those people thrown in the Roman arenas, the Colosseums, were Israelites, black people. The real Hebrews. We had to fight lions and bears and all that, win back our freedom and stuff. So, that happened to us 70 AD. Ran to Africa to hide. And all that. We sinned, Deuteronomy 26 days. Slave ships in America to be sold to men because they sinned, they broke the laws. To Israelites. Only Israelites got the laws of men. That's no other nation. Alright? And the only people we already know what slave ships is, that's black people, which they call African or black, which they're Israelites from Shem. They're not Ham, they're not African. They're not black. So, people gotta wake up.
They didn't go to Libya. They didn't go to South Africa. They went to the Ivory Coast of West Africa.
Well, I'm talking about that. Christ is darkening while we're here. Revelation 1:14-15. Disciples, right? Acts 13:1-4. Disciples and prophets at the church of Antioch called NIGER, black. Christ's real name is Yeshua, that's Savior in the Hebrews. Jesus is Greek. The letter J didn't exist when Christ was alive. And Greeks were Romans. The Romans killed Christ, killed disciples, destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD. Real history. The false image they put up as Christ is Siege of Bojack. Sychism of Alexander, the sixth, the Pope of Rome. He was a criminal, poisoner, gay, and all that. Gay lover, Leonardo da Vinci, paying them and all that. Pull him up as the new Christ. Occasion to see the world, right? posing a criminal as Christ or Roman. Then Christ's real name is Yeshua. That means Savior in English. He's the son, the father. Exodus 3:13-14 in the Bible with Moses. The Father, the Creator, the Most High gave his real name. I am that I am in English. It's for short, just I am. Then ancient Hebrew Venetian, which is the original Hebrew, ancient Hebrew Venetian, not Yiddish, is Ahaya Asher Ahaya. For short, just Ahaya. So the Father, Ahaya, the Creator, the Father, the Most High Ahaya, then his Son, the Savior, Christ Yeshua, Christ. Then the Mother, Holy Spirit, Comforter, and all that. She is wisdom. So that's the Godhead. That's the Godhead, not the Holy Trinity. Holy Trinity is not in the Bible. The Godhead, heavenly family, man, mother. They create the Son. They come together, make the kids and all that. Not three dudes, so people gotta wake up. 3 witnesses in heaven. 1, 2, 3. So wake up. Virgin birth's a lie. Joseph is the father of Christ. No holidays is in the Bible. There's no free grace. Salvation is of the Jews. It's not to the world. The world, Satan is the world. All right. Christ says, "The world hates you, know they hate me first, and broad is the way to destruction, and there should have the way to kingdom." If you will find it, broad means majority. That's why it's Satan's world. 90% will fall, 10% will be a remnant. The whole world knows something, does something. No, if the whole world does something, knows something, go the opposite way. All right. So people gotta wake up. Follow all the commandments. Christ said that. Gotta get baptized. Christ said that. Gotta wake up. And the true people are dark skinned, bro. So wake up. And the Jewish people are Romans from Esau. They're in the dark of Satan. They control the world under Satan. So wake up. Healthcare system, government's all satanic. So wake up. All religions and holidays are pagan and satanic from Babylon to our Babel. The Bible has nothing to do with Christianity or Catholic or any denomination. The cross has nothing to do with Christ. The Sabbath is on Saturday, not Sunday. So people gotta wake up there. Graven images and idols, which is sin. 10 Commandments, like the cross and all these fake pictures of Christ and Mary. Graven images and idolatry. There's no object of worship or pictures. The Bible says to have no image of anything in heaven and earth, below the earth, all that stuff. It's sin. So wake up. And they allow King James too, just like they allow Christ. They allow Christ to learn about everything else. King James Version Bible only, 80 books. That's the truth. Outside religious influence. Bible is truth. Religions are lies. All of them. Even Christianity. So wake up. They don't teach you the real Christ or the Bible in Christianity or Catholic or nothing. So wake up.
Africa. Yes. Sierra Leone. You have Ghana. You have Nigeria. You have those that went back in Liberia. These people don't have nothing to do with these 4 families. Because the Israelites had a culture, so they did not mix their culture with the other families in so-called Africa. All right? Now you may say, I want to hold to Africa because of mathematics, the rich history that Africa has. We're going to show you the origin of that history. You're going to find out that's not African origin at all. That's Israelite origin. Okay? To prove that, when the Israelites left Egypt, there was no pyramids erected after that. You think that's a coincidence? That the people leave and then there's no new pyramid? If they had the science before, why didn't they use it after we left? Right? Now, let's get it. Let's get the Ethiopians first, one of the families of Ham. How did they get into Israel? How did they get into Israel? And the Bible speaks of these people who claim that they are Israel today. You have many Ethiopians who think they're Jews. Let's see. Let's go to 2 Kings 17, and let's start at the 17th verse. I'll wait for everyone to get it there. 2 Kings 17 and 17.
And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire, and used divination and enchantments.
So our people started dealing with evil. started sacrificing their children and doing all types of evil. Read on.
And sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord.
And they sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord. Read.
To provoke him to anger. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight.
So because Israel, which were primarily the Indian tribes, you got the Puerto Ricans, the Indians, the Mexicans, these are all from the 12 tribes of Israel. You've seen some of our past kings. They were doing much evil in the land, which was the northern kingdom. Started sacrificing their children, so the Lord did what? Read that part again. He moved them out of his what?
Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, and he removed them out of his sight.
The Lord's sight is on his land Israel, so he moved them out of the northern kingdom. Read.
There was none left but the tribe of Judah only.
And the only people that was left are the three tribes, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. The rest of the Indian tribes left and eventually came over here. So something happened after the Indian tribes left here. Let's see what happened after that. Read.
Also Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord, their power, but walked in the statutes of Israel which they made.
Go ahead.
And the Lord rejected all the seed of Israel and afflicted them and delivered them into the hand of spoilers until he had cast them out of his sight.
Go ahead.
For he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king. And Jeroboam drove Israel from following the Lord and made them sin a great sin.
Go ahead.
For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam which he did. They departed not from them, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day.
So they was carried out of their land, which was the northern kingdom, to Assyria. You're going to find out that the majority of them served captivity for about 3 years, and the Lord showed them signs, and they came over here to the Americas. Those were the Indian tribes. So because the land was void of these people, Assyria put a new people in the land. Let's see. See, this is history. They're not going to teach this in your colleges and in your churches. If you want to know how people got into different parts of the land or different parts of the earth, the Bible identifies each migration. The Bible is a history book. Read.
Verse 24. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cuthah.
From Babylon and Cuthah. You understand that? That's the Ethiopia. Read.
And from Avam and from Hamath.
And from Hamath. These are Africans. Read.
And from Seraphim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel.
So you want to know how the Ethiopians got into the land? Started thinking they were Israel? The Assyrians placed them in the land. And they wasn't the physical people of the city of Israel. They were Hamitic. So just because you're practicing the laws and you're practicing the ways of the Israelites does not make you an Israelite in blood. Read.
And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was at the beginning of their dwelling there that they feared not the Lord. Therefore the Lord sent lions among them, which slew some of them.
So they were in the land, these Hamitic people, but they didn't know how to sacrifice right in the land. The Lord started sending lions to slay them and their children. Read.
Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, The nations which thou hast removed and placed in the cities of Samaria know not the manner of the God of the land. Therefore he hath sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the God of the land.
So because they didn't understand how to sacrifice to the true God of Israel, the Lord was killing them. Read.
Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, Carry thither one of the priests whom ye brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach them the manner of the God of the land.
So how did the Hamitic or Africans learn about our God? The Assyrians took a Levite priest back to the land and taught them the way of our God. Now, something happens once. This is a generational thing. Because what happens is, if your great-great-great-grandfather was taught the ways of this land, and now you're doing it right, you come around 3 or 4 generations saying, well, I want to be an Israelite. Not knowing that you're not an Israelite through blood. Your foreparents were just taught how to live in the land. So you're growing up in a land, and now, through generation, you're thinking that you were the original people. Through generational error. Now, and you talking about just 3 or 4 generations, just think about after 1,000 years, you're being there. No one can tell you you're not an Israelite now. But yet, you didn't trace your history back to 2 Kings when your family, which were Hamitic, were placed in the land to make imposters. That's how you have African Jews who think they're Israelites. When you can't have 2 separate families be one nation. That's confusing. Israelites are from the seed of Shem. They're from the seed of Shem. Hamitic people are from the seed of Ham. 2 separate families. There's no way you can have logically an African Jew. Y'all see that? So that's how they got in the land. And guess what? Guess who straightened this out? Our Lord and Savior Christ straightened this out to this Samaritan in St. John, the 4th chapter, who thought that she was really an Israelite, not knowing she was a descendant of the people that were placed in the land.
Yep. The woman at the well.
So Christ straightened it out. Get Matthew 10 and 5 real quick. Christ straightened this out. Let's get it. Matthew 10 and 5. We're going to get that, and we're going to get St. John, the 4th chapter. Okay? I'm going to ask you all a question. Because now that you have this knowledge of how they got to the land, how these people migrated in the land, this is going to give you some understanding of the New Testament. And see, that's confusing, telling the people in the earth, especially Christians, telling people that you don't need to go in the Old Testament. Just deal with the New Testament. If you don't know the Old Testament, how can you relate to the stories in the New Testament? How can you know what the setting was? It's impossible. But really what they're telling you is, the history don't matter. Just follow what we give you. Come let them all, let us cut them all from being a nation. For the name of Israel shall be no more in remembrance. Don't remember yourself. Jesus loves you. That's it. Let's see what Jesus said. Go to Matthew 10 and 5.
These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not.
So Christ told the disciples not to go to the Gentiles. And of course, this was before he sanctioned the Israelites or the disciples who were Israel to start teaching all nations. Because Israelites were scattered throughout all nations. But Christ was making it clear, because even Paul said, to the Jews first, then the Gentiles. But he was straightening it out. He was like, listen, let's start going to the Jews first. Read that again.
These 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go.
Yep. Even Christ said to the woman at the well, what salvation or whatever? Salvation is of the Jews, then the Gentiles. So if you want salvation, you gotta go to the real Israelites, not those synagogue of Satan Romans in Israel today. That run all these religions and every denomination of Christianity and Catholic you could think of. They all run. So, if you want real truth and salvation, you gotta go to the real Israelites. Black people in America, bro. Not Africans. And they're not black, but I'm just saying that so you'll know what I'm talking about. Right? So, you gotta wake up.
Not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans. Not.
Now, I wonder why he was telling the disciples not to go to Samaria. Based on the history we just we just read. Why did Christ say don't go to Samaria? Because Ethiopians and Hamitic people were placed in the land instead of the children of Israel. You see that? Yeah. Y'all see that? Could read?
But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
But I'd rather you go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now, do you think the people that were taken out of the land were part of that lost sheep? You bet your bottom dollar they were lost. They were sacrificing other gods and all types of things. So now Christ was sending out his spirit to start gathering the elect of the people that were scattered throughout the earth.
Yep, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. You think those Jewish people are lost? And the Bible says when the true people are on the land, there be no more war. Look what they're doing over war. The ETC, they don't fit the description either. And they don't follow Christ, Jewish people. And they have the star of Satan as the flag. Star of Satan as the flag. Pentagram, 5.6 point star, Moab sacrifice, Baal, Satan. Canaanite star, Amos 5x7. The Bible tells you that star of Satan as the flag. So they're Satan. The governments. Alright, so wake up.
But first, he had to start with Israel. That's why he told them we're going to Samaria, even though Samaria is in Israel. So that gives us another clue. Christ even knew. And the disciples knew the history of 2 Kings, the 17th chapter. They knew that those people that claimed that they were Israel were not Israel. Because they knew exactly where not to go. Y'all see that? Now let's see Christ dealing with one of the children of those Hamitic people. Go to St. John. Let's read, start at the 4th chapter in the first verse. Let's start there. Read that.
When therefore the Lord knew how the Pharisees had heard that Jesus made and baptized more disciples than John.
First of all, Christ baptized more disciples than John. Let's make that clear. So anyone that say that Christ was going to bring a new type of baptism instead of water, not understanding that the water baptism still stands, they're entirely incorrect. All right? I just wanted to say that. Even though Christ didn't go into the water himself, he had the disciples. They had more baptisms than John himself. Read.
Though Jesus himself baptized not, but his disciples.
Go ahead.
He left Judea and departed again into Galilee. And he must needs go through Samaria.
So he had to go through Samaria, a shortcut. And y'all know who is in Samaria. Read.
Then cometh he to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near to the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus therefore, being wearied with his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Jesus saith unto her, Give me to drink. For his disciples were going away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest drink of me?
Hold up now. He said, how is it that you being a Jew is asking water from me? So she knew to some degree that the original Jew was not really in association with them. Do y'all see that? She even knew that. So there was a separation there. Read.
And a woman of Samaria, for the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans.
She said, because the Jews have no dealing with the Samaritans. Right?
Jesus answered and said unto her, If thou knowest the gift of the Most High, and who it is that saith to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked him, and he would have given thee living water.
He said, if you knew who was there, you would have just give me what I asked you for. Christ was straight, man. He was austere. Christ is not this this guy you being taught, man. He was straight with it. He was dropping. Read.
The woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water?
Go ahead.
Art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well?
You see how she's trying to claim Jacob? Now? Why? Because she's been taught that from generation to generation. Now she slipped herself in there. See, that's why
Art thou greater than our father Jacob?
are you greater than our father Jacob? When Jacob was not her father. She was a Hamite. Read.
Which gave us the well and drank thereof himself,
Watch what Christ tell her now.
and his children and his cattle. Jesus answered and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life.
Go ahead.
The woman saith unto him, Sir, give me this water that I thirst not,
Now, she was asking for the water, right? What did Christ say, read?
neither come hither to draw. Jesus saith unto her, Go call thy husband and come hither.
Now he's giving it to her now. Yeah, we can work it out. Go get your husband, lady. Read.
The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said unto her, Thou hast well said, I have no husband. For thou hast had 5 husbands, and the one thou now hast is not thy husband. In that saidest thou truly.
Christ knew that she had 5 different men. And then Christ said, the God that you with is not your husband. You see that? So Christ was pulling it all out here. Read.
The woman said unto him, Sir,
And that also proves something. That proves something key there. That's a scripture that proves that sex do consummate marriage. So just because you're sleeping around and you didn't walk down the aisle, doesn't mean you're not looked at as a wife of these different men you're sleeping with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? She had 5 different husbands. Okay? You just can't sleep around and think that you're not being looked at as husband and wife. Because sex consummates marriage. He's like, listen, you got 5 husbands, and the guy you with, he's not your husband. You just dealing with all these guys. Okay? And we can relate that till today. How a woman might think, well, I just got friends. Not knowing that her spirit is attached to all these different men.
Mm-hmm.
Read.
The woman saith unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet.
I perceive that you are a prophet. She knew that he was dealing with something great at that point because Christ pulled a whole card. Read.
Our fathers worshipped in this mountain.
Now
and
she's
ye
going
say,
back to her fathers again. Our fathers. She's including herself. Read.
Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is a place where men ought to worship.
Go ahead.
Jesus saith unto her, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father.
Hold up. Read that again.
Jesus saith unto her, Woman,
Woman,
believe me.
believe me. You understand when Christ said, believe me, this stands. He said, woman, listen. Believe me. Read.
The hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain
The hour gonna come, woman, where this mountain that you standing in, this land, read,
nor yet at Jerusalem
nor in Jerusalem, read,
worship the Father.
you will not be here worshiping the Father when it's said and done. That's what Christ told this woman. Read.
Ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship.
Christ said, you don't have no idea what you worshiping, woman.
Hold on.
We know what we're worshiping.
Hold on. That's what happens when you're in religion and holidays. You don't know what you're worshiping.
Why did he say that? She wasn't from the family of the people in the land. She had no idea that her family was taught that by the priest in 2 Kings, the 17th chapter. He said, you have no idea what you worship. We know what we worship. Read.
For salvation is of the Jews.
Because the salvation that you think belongs to you belongs to a different people. Salvation is dominion and rulership. See, the churches have twisted what salvation is. Salvation means to be saved. No, it does not. Salvation means dominion and rulership. How do you know that? In Romans the 11th chapter, it says that through Israel's fall, salvation came to the Gentiles to provoke Israel to jealousy. So because Israel fell, the whole earth got rich. Salvation is dominion. They confuse people by saying salvation means to be saved. Two totally separate situations. And if Christ said it, it stands. You can't twist that around. He says, it's going to come a time, woman, you or your family will not be worshiping in this mountain. You Africans who claiming you Jews. For salvation is of my people. They're going to be the people ruling this mountain and ruling Israel and ruling the world from this place. Not you. Y'all see that? That doesn't mean that she will not be able to partake in it, but not in that position she thinks she's in. She will not be a partaker as a ruler in Israel. That's not going to happen. That's for God's people to rule. That government will be set up of Israelites. Read on.
But the hour cometh, and now is when the true worshipers.
Read that again.
But the hour cometh, and now is when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth.
It's going to come a time when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. Lady, the real people are coming back here. That's what he was telling them. The real people are coming back. Read.
For the Father.
Christ, Yeshaya, dark skin, white hair, according to the Bible. He was spitting right there, bro. He was telling you the truth.
Such to worship him.
Because the Father wants them back. Read.
The Most High is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth.
And most people talk about how spiritual they are. God is a spirit, but if you want to worship Christ and worship the Most High, you must worship him in spirit and in truth. You got to tell the truth. You might think that we're wrong by pulling this information out, but it's true. We have to show how these people got in the land. Because Christ said there's going to come a time where those people that are in the land will not be there, and the true worshipers will be there. So we have to do what Christ said. We have to find those lost sheep and let them know it's time for them to get ready to worship from that land. Because the Father wanted so. Everyone see that? So how did the Ethiopians become Jews? Come on, give it to me. Huh? They were placed in the land instead of who? Where you read that at? 2 Kings what? 2 Kings 17th chapter. So all these Haile Selassie guys and talking about the Ethiopian Jews, you can just take them right there and say, listen, and make the quote that Christ made. You worship, you know not what. The salvation is of the Jews. There's going to come a time where you or the people that are there, which are Hamites, will not worship in that mountain. Neither in any mountain. That the true worshipers will one day worship there because the Father wanted to do so and take them to the scripture. So they, of course, you're an Israelite through religion. I mean, you're a Jew through religion. But you cannot become a Jew through religion. Because in order to be a Jew, you must be the tribe of what? Judah. You can't make a man's nationality or a man into a religion. That's me. It's just like me today. If I become a Buddhist, now we know that's a predominantly Asian religion. Does that make me Chinese? So if you got Jewish people today following a Jew religion, that doesn't make them the children of Judah. You cannot be a Jew by religion. You must be a Jew by blood. You can be in the land. You can worship in the land. You can even worship right in the land like the Ethiopians were. But it's going to come a time you're not going to be there according to Christ. Because you're not the people. Now, of course, the Gentiles will come up to Jerusalem once a year to pay respect to God's people and to our King Yeshua. Of course, they tell you in Isaiah that the nations are going to cleave to the children of Israel. They cleaving to us now. Because the nations, even the Gentiles, are tired of this mess we call a world. But they'll be taught the true God of the Most High. I mean, the true God of the land. They'll be taught the truth according to the Bible. Okay? Now, we got the Ethiopian thing out of the way. All right? Now you know how the Ethiopians are claiming to be Jews and they are not. The other thing they're saying is that King Solomon slept with Queen Sheba and bare prophet, who eventually was Haile Selassie in Ethiopia. There's no biblical history. That's unfounded. Totally unfounded. It's false. Ethiopians are Hamitic. They're not Jews. They're nowhere near the family of Israel. Okay? So our people that try to, mostly the West Indians and the Jamaicans, link to that fact of learning their Israel. They try to go that way. But they're still going the wrong way. Because now you're still going to Ethiopia. There's no such thing as Ethiopian Jews. That's a lie. There's films and there's tapes out there saying that the Ethiopians have the Ark of the Covenant. That's a lie. Because only the Levites, according to the Bible, could touch the Ark of the Covenant. And the Levites are the modern day Haitians. Hamites cannot touch the Ark. If they touch the Ark, they will immediately die. And the Lord tells you that when we're back in the land, that's when He will reveal the Ark of the Covenant back to us.
Yep.
All right? So we got the Ethiopian thing out of the way. Now it's time to go into one of the biggest religions that have us confused. The next. I'm in the gift. We're going to do that now. Now for the brothers and sisters who think that you're from Egypt, okay? Even though there's no history in which you can prove that you came from Egypt into Africa and your foreparents came over on a cargo slave ship. But because you know so much rich history was in Egypt and mathematics was in Egypt, it is equated to Egypt, you immediately want to hold to that because there's some rich history you can actually go and see yourself. You know that they were all black people. You do know that. Now, that leads us to some questions. Because if the Egyptians were black, then the people that were enslaved under the Egyptians, which were Moses' family, the Israelites, must have been what? They must have been black. How can Moses pose for second to Ramesses? How can he pose as an Egyptian if he was anything other than black? Okay? So now, that lets you know, just because you're dark, that does not define your nation. Okay? Noah had 3 sons. Noah was a dark-skinned man. His sons were dark. Okay? How do we know that Moses was a dark-skinned man? Let's start there since we're dealing with Egypt and Moses.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And his sister, leprosy. Mosai turned his hand, he put his hand in his chest, turned white as snow. Put it out of his chest. Put his hand in his chest, white as snow, leprosy. Put it back in his chest and returned back to his original flesh. Same thing for his sister as well. So it's like, okay, if he was white even though he was about to be Pharaoh in Egypt, in the Pharaoh's household, by the way, the king's household. Let's say he's white. Okay, so he's white. He put his hand in his vesture. He's white. Leprosy turned it white. Then he put it back in his chest and returned back to being. Doesn't make sense. So people gotta wake up. People gotta wake up, man. And leprosy is what caused white people, anyways. You have Esau. He was red. Esau married into a candidate that was strict with leprosy. They turned white as snow. That's how you get your Caucasian today. White man, Roman, whatever. So people gotta wake up. Gotta wake up.
This was known for helping the children of Israel come out of Egypt. Let's go to Numbers, the 12th chapter, on the curse that came down on his sister Miriam. I need you to start. Let me get it with you. For those who think that we are Egyptians. Let's go to Numbers 12. Let me get it with you one moment. All right. Numbers 12. Let's start at the first verse.
And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses. And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman.
That's crazy.
He had married.
I can't believe they did that.
For he had married an Ethiopian woman.
So Miriam and Aaron, Moses' brother and sister, started speaking against Moses because he married outside of his nation.
They done messed up big time. I'll tell you that right now.
The law, an Israelite was supposed to prefer their own.
Yeah, that's true.
This goes into another thing. Just because someone is married outside of the nation, they got to deal with that. We're not supposed to be the judges of marriage and all those things. I'm going to show you that. Let's read on.
And they said, has the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Has he not spoken also by us? And the Lord heard it.
So they started boasting.
Yeah, they messed up big time.
He's dealing with us too. Because they seen that Moses was in the fault. Read.
Now the man Moses was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses, and unto Aaron, and unto Miriam, Come out, ye three, unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And they three came out. And the Lord came down in the pillar of the cloud, and stood at the door of the tabernacle, and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. And he said, Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I the Lord will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all my house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark seasons. And the similitude of the Lord shall he behold.
Moses was him.
Okay. Therefore, ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses.
He said, listen, this is go against Moses because
at that time, he was him, bro. At that time, obviously prophesied somebody greater than him, which is Christ, right? So that's crazy. Face to face, no visions, no none of that. That's crazy work, huh?
I don't speak to you in parable of dreams. I come directly to you.
Yep.
And were you not afraid to speak against him? Read.
And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow.
He became what?
Leprous, white as snow.
He became leprous, white as snow. So the spell that was put on her was the Lord took her melanin away from her. So in order for her to be dealing with this strike that came from the Most High, what color must she have been before this happened? Huh?
Yep. Why would it be a curse or a punishment if she was already white? If she was already white, why would it be a curse or a punishment? Wake up. They're all black, bro. They're all dark skinned, bro. Hebrews, not Africans. Hebrews. Shem, Middle East. Wake up. Acts 13, 1-4. Disciples, prophets, call NIGER. Revelation 1:14-15. Christ, dark skin, white hair. Wake up, bro. They're all dark skinned. Wake up.
She must have been black. If the curse came on her and then she became white as snow, the Lord stripped her of her melanin. To prove to you that the Israelites were dark as well as Africans. This is Moses' sister. Read on.
Aaron said, Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was blessed. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned.
Do not put this sin on us. Aaron, he said, do not put this sin on us. But please, because he was shocked when he looked at Aaron, when he looked at Marion, the melanin was gone. Read.
Let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed, when he cometh out of his mother's womb.
So yet,
And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, Heal her now, O power, I beseech thee.
but even though she was speaking against Moses, Moses was meek and had mercy. He was like, Lord, teach her. Read.
And the Lord said,
You know, woman. She was probably crying and all that stuff. Crying, screaming. Probably. Shouldn't have been doing all that heretic, and gossiping. Because when they got the laws, you can't be a heretic. If you got a problem with somebody, you have to tell it to their face in private. You can't just make a public example of your opinion of that person, like they were doing, right? They had a problem with Moses marrying the Ethiopian, the Hamite, when they're Hebrews, and they were making that public for everybody to hear. Stumbling blocks to the unlearned or whatever, right? They should have went to Moses first, or the Most High. So that's a heretic. You don't do that. If you problem with somebody, go to them before the sun goes down.
unto Moses, if her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that let her be received in again.
So the Lord gave us 7 days for her speaking against Moses. Took away her melanin, and she didn't get it back until 7 days were done. For her speaking against Moses. Moses wasn't perfect, but he was the man that the Most High chose. Y'all see that? More proof. Go to Exodus, the 4th chapter. Because first of all, we're showing the fact that the Israelites were dark. So those out there who think that being African is the way to be, even though you're not in these 4 families, which we showed earlier, now you can come back to your true heritage, knowing that the true Israelites were dark, and they were responsible for all the rich history that these other countries state claim to. You think you're an Egyptian because you thought the Egyptians had all the riches and power. Because you're going to find something out today. Well, let's deal with this color real quick. Go to Exodus, the 4th chapter. When Moses was asking the Most High to reveal how he would go into the land and free his people. And the Most High had to give him signs to let him know that he was with Moses. I need you to go to start at the 4th verse.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Put forth thy hand, and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand, and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand.
So the Lord gave him a rod. Read.
That they may believe that the Lord thy power, the power of thy fathers, The power of Abraham, the power of Isaac, and the power of Jacob have appeared unto thee.
Go ahead.
And the Lord said furthermore unto him, Put now thy hand into thy bosom.
Put your hand into thy bosom. This is what happened.
And he put his hand into his bosom. And when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow.
So the Lord was showing him a sign that he was with him. So he put his hand into his bosom, and when Moses plucked it out, it became white as snow. Read.
And he said, Put thy hand into thy bosom again.
Go put it back into your bosom.
And he put his hand into his bosom again, and plucked it out of his bosom, and behold, it was turned again as his other flesh.
It was turned again as his other flesh. So the Lord was showing him that he was with him by showing him the miracle. One, he put his hand in his bosom, and he turned white to prove that Christ, to prove that Moses was a God man. If he was white, then that miracle could not have happened. And when he plucked it out again, it looked just like his other flesh. Y'all see that? That's pretty good. Right? Now, we want to link into the Egyptians of saying, okay, the Egyptians are great. They're outstanding. Look at the heritage of mathematics. What happened to those mathematics once Israel left the land? No more mathematics? No more pyramids? To show you the greatness of Egypt came from the children of Israel. Every place the children of Israel reside, the Lord blessed. The Lord blessed any place we reside. So in order for them to build this modern day Egypt, they needed the same people. They needed the children of those slaves to build Egypt, to build modern day Egypt. Okay? Before I get to scripture, we're going into the give you some history, and then we're going back into the Bible. And we're going to prove to you where the greatness and history of Egypt, where that comes from. We're going into the Antiquities of the Jews, Book 1, Chapter 8, Paragraph 2. How did Egypt become great? It says here, For whereas the Egyptians were formerly addicted to different customs and despised one another's sacred and accustomed rites, and were very angry one with another on that account. Abram, we know that's Abraham, conferred with each of them, and confuting the reasonings that made use of every one for their own practices, demonstrated that such reasonings were vain and void of truth. So when they were contending with each other in the past, Abraham came and set them in order. Whereupon he was admired by them in those conferences as a very wise man, and one of great sagacity. When he discoursed on any subject, he understood. And this not only in understanding it, it persuaded other men also to assent to him. He communicated to them arithmetic, and delivered to them the science of astronomy. So all the greatness you are attributing to Egypt came from our father Abraham. Before Abraham, there was no understanding of science. It says he communicated to them arithmetic, which is your mathematics, and delivered to them the science of astrology. For before Abraham came into Egypt, they were unacquainted with those parts of learning. So before our patriarch father Abraham came into Egypt, they knew nothing about arithmetic. For that science came from the Chaldeans into Egypt, and from thence to the Greeks also. So that science that we taught, that our father Abraham taught the Egyptians, that same science went from civilization to civilization. Greece took it on, and then who took it on? Eventually the Romans took it on because they came right after the Greeks. But yet they'll stop the science at Egypt. Why? Let's cut them off so the name of Israel shall be no more in remembrance. Why they don't tell you that there was no science before our foreparent Abraham got there. There was no arithmetic before we got there. Okay? There's more. There's more. I'm going to save this part for later right here. And I'm going to read it. Why will I read this? Because according to the Bible, go to Genesis 41 and 37. According to the Bible, Jacob's youngest son Joseph, which is the father of Ephraim, he was also the father of Manasseh. These are the modern day Puerto Ricans and the modern day Cubans. Joseph is the father of the modern day Puerto Ricans and the modern day Cubans. Joseph was the youngest son of Jacob. He was the youngest, but the Lord was working with him through dreams. And when you read in Genesis, these dreams were showing that at the very end he would be higher than all his brothers. It was also showing 7 years of plenteous and 7 years of famine. So his brothers sold him into Egypt. And because he was sold into Egypt, he was able to interpret the dreams, and he was raised in higher rank. And because of the science and the understanding that he was learning and dealing with, and because he was able to interpret the dreams and to save the earth from a famine, he was known in Egypt as Imhotep, second to the king. Yes, Imhotep was the greatest in Egypt history, was an Israelite. Okay? And this is recorded in the Bible. It wasn't for the Lord sending one of our people to the famine. The whole people died. And we saved Egypt. The Israelites saved Egypt. How do we know that? Go to Genesis 41 and 37.
And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of the Most High is?
He said, listen, we can't find a man nowhere as great as Joseph. The Spirit of the Most High is in this man. Read.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, For as much as the Most High hath shown thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be born. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou.
So he set Joseph up over all of Egypt. Read that part again.
Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled.
So anything Joseph said became law in Egypt. There was an Israelite ruling in Egypt. Read.
Only in the throne will I be greater than thou.
Only in the throne was he greater than Joseph. Y'all see that? They don't show this in Egyptology. Read.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt.
I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. Joseph was a ruler in Egypt. And that ruler, when you parallel him with Imhotep, when you parallel him with Imhotep in Egyptology, you will see that it was Joseph. Read. And it's another thing. There's a reason that out of all the kings or rulers in Egypt, they could not find Imhotep's bones or mummy. Why? Because it told you in the scriptures that Joseph made a promise. He made his children promise that when they leave when they leave Egypt, that they would take his bones out. So these excavations you go to, they talk about Imhotep because they can't deny what he brought to Egypt. But they'll never show, they'll tell you that his tomb is, they can't find his blood, his bones. Why? Because according to the Bible, Joseph was taken out of the land when Moses and the Israelites left. So now we're filling in the gaps for you here. Read on.
And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck.
So he dressed Joseph like a what?
All right, hold on. Let's turn this off for a moment. Wash the qualifications and go in your room, wash your face, your hands, your lips, your eye, and your mouth, please.
Egyptian king. So the little things you see crossed and all that, and the headpiece and all that, that was actually an Israelite ruling in Egypt. Well, they won't tell you that today. Why? Little things you see crossed and all that, and the headpiece and all that, that was actually an Israelite ruling in Egypt. Well, they won't tell you that today. Why?
Part 9.
Why? Because the Egyptians were very wroth or mad at the fact that they tried all their magic against Israel when the Lord sent Moses there with a stick. And Moses took them down with a stick and destroyed their chariots in the water. So because of this, the African Egyptians always had disdain against the children of Israel. So what did they do? They tried to strike Israel from all the records. And now they're trying to say that Israel never was in Egypt. Because the Pharaoh had the power to strike. If they wanted to strike you from history, they could. So now they never was in Egypt. Because the Pharaoh had the power to strike. If they wanted to strike you from history, they could. So now they're telling people, Moses never was in Egypt. Because of their disdain of the God of Israel that destroyed their empire with a stick. With 2 men and a stick. And took out all the children of Israel out of the land. So now we see how Joseph was able to become ruler. And when his brothers seen him, they didn't even recognize him. Why? Because he was looking and dressed like an Egyptian. So in time, when his brothers came to him, he started setting up his brothers over Egypt because his word was number 1 in all the land. The only place Pharaoh had a word was from the throne. But he trusted Joseph, so he let Joseph rule. So when his brothers came, the Israelites ruled Egypt for a specific amount of time. And it's what you call the Hyksos period. Hyksos. For a specific amount of time. And it was is what you call the Hyksos period. Hyksos. And I need y'all to examine how they try to explain this one. They say, well, you wait in the car. All right. So we have the Hyksos period. Okay? Now, this is how they tried to explain, because you can't deny the rulership of the Hyksos period because it was for a long period. So this is what they said. They said, well, something happened where a war broke out between the Egyptians and these Asiatics. And these Asiatics came in and ruled Egypt for a certain amount of time. And then the Egyptians took it back over. So instead of it's just admitting that that time period was from Joseph and their rulership, they lied and said that it was a people that no one knows who they are right now. Just some Asiatic people just came in Egypt and just sat there and ruled over all of Egypt, then disappeared. Right? Who explains this? Josephus. And I'm going to read this in Josephus. I'm in Josephus, Flavius, Josephus against Apion. As a matter of fact, this is the first book and the 14th. The first book in the 14th part. It says, now this Manetho, and we know Manetho is an African or Hamitic historian. In the second book of the Egyptian history writes concerning us in the following manner. I will set down his very words as if I were to bring the very matter into a court for a witness. So because Manetho was pushing these lies that Israel never existed, but the Asiatic people, existed instead of Israel in Egypt. Josephus said, you know what, I'm going to lay this out like a lawyer. I'm going to prove that through Manetho's words that Israel was ruling in Egypt. It says here, like a lawyer, I'm going to prove that through Manetho's words that Israel was ruling in Egypt. It says here, the whole nation was styled Hyksos, Hycsos. That is shepherd kings. The whole nation was styled Hyksos, Hycsos. That is shepherd kings. For the first syllable Hicks, according to the sacred dialect, denotes a king, and Isos, a shepherd. Now here's a question. Shepherd kings. For the first syllable Hicks, according to the sacred dialect, denotes a king, and Isos, a shepherd. Now here's a question. Who are known for shepherding or abiding over the fields in Egypt? The Israelites. And where? Goshen. And Goshen, right? And it says, now, in another copy, this is Josephus, it is said that this word does not denote kings, but on the contrary, captive shepherds. So what people were captives in Egypt? Israelites. There's something else. Manetho goes on and say, these people whom we have before named kings and called shepherds also, and the descendants, as he says, kept possession of Egypt 511 years. So the Hyksos, or the shepherd kings, ruled Europe for a specific period. Now, here's another thing. They built a city in that country which is now called Judea, and that large enough to contain this great number of men, called it Jerusalem. Now Manetho, in another book of his, says that this nation, thus called shepherds, were also called captives in their sacred books, and this account on his is the truth. For feeding of sheep was the employment of our forefathers in the most ancient ages. And it says, and as they led such a wandering life in feeding sheep, and they were called shepherds, nor was it without reason that they were called captives by the Egyptians. Since one of our ancestors, Joseph, told the king of Egypt that he was a captive, and afterwards sent for his brethren into Egypt by the king's permission. But as for these matters, I shall make a more exact inquiry about them elsewhere. So now he was filling in the gaps and showing them that according to Joseph's rule, that's how they were able to write the history of the Hyksos, because we ruled Egypt for almost 500 years. The Hyksos period. How are some people just going to come in Egypt and rule, and no one have any history about them? They'd rather say that than admit that it was our people that ruled Egypt. How do we know they ruled? Go to Exodus, the first chapter now. We're rounding this up now. Let's go to Exodus 1. You have it? Okay. I need you to start. I need you to start here at the I need you to start the 7th verse. Start there.
And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them.
So after Jacob and the 70 souls, by permission, came into the land of Egypt by their brother who was ruling Egypt, which is Imhotep or Joseph, they started multiplying. They started having children in an innumerable number. Read.
Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph.
So now here's this new guy coming. There was a new king in Egypt who didn't recognize the greatness of Joseph and didn't appreciate what Joseph brought to Egypt. Read.
And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
So the Egyptians or the Africans got afraid. They say, listen, they're becoming mightier than us. Read.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
So get them what?
And so get them up out of the land.
How was they up in the land if they wasn't ruling? So they were in Egypt ruling, and then this new king came and said, listen, we have to get them out of the land. And they moved our people eventually to Goshen as the shepherd kings. And they started conspiring against Israel because we were multiplying. So they started a birth control. They wanted to kill the male children because they knew, according to the prophecy, that a savior of Israel was going to come out of the loins of Israel to get them out of Egypt. So they tried birth control by killing the man-child. If you get rid of the man, you can control the woman, and the woman can bring forth the nations, the other seeds, nations, and teach their children to serve. So this program that we have here in the United States is the same program that we had in ancient Egypt. They learned this from Egypt. Let's do popular.
Gotta skip that before I get strike down. But it's true. I'm gonna wait a second. Don't want no bots striking me down. But yeah, depopulation, systematic genocide, do everything. And especially, I'm gonna wait a second, do the healthcare system. So don't take none of that stuff. Witchcraft in the Bible translated means pharmaceuticals, witchcraft, poison. Look at the ads on TV with the medicine, which are drugs. You get thoughts of suicide and all this. That's a demon, right? Bible, God said in the Bible, herbs cure all things. You don't need drugs. The first drug was the tree of good and evil planted by Satan, by the way. And that's where all drugs stem from. And you need herb cure all things and vitamins and nutrients. That's all you need. You don't need nothing else. Prayer. If you're sick, get that demon out. Now, a lot of these diseases or whatever, any type of medical anything, HIV, the C word, all this stuff, diabetes, whatever. It's all, I'm going to pause for a second so AI don't pick up what I'm about to say. It's all, the phrases I'm about to say, it's all man-made. It's all man-made by the government. It's a systematic genocide on God's people in America. Israelites, Native Americans, Mexicans, Hispanics, nations, Haitians / Dominicans, Jamaicans, Caribbeans, whatever, Mexicans, Native Americans, black people in America. They're the Israelites. Wake up.
During the Hyksos period. Y'all have that? I'm going to do a more of that.
Then, abortions, murder, then some Moloch sacrifice. They're doing the same thing in Egypt too. 20 million something kids aborted. And that was taught by fallen angels, by the way, too. Potions, which we call Plan B pill today. The abortion keep a woman's shape and all that stuff. So it's all satanic and
That's study just on Egypt alone.
and all the sciences lies.
But the key thing here is, after we left, after our servitude was done, and we left, no more greatness came out of Egypt. That should tell you something. That should tell you something. Every empire we went into after Egypt became great. That should tell you something. Where was the great technology here in America before we got here? That tells you something. You think Benjamin Franklin discovered electricity with a kite, a string, and a key? Are you kidding me?
Nope. There's electricity in Africa before the slave ships. So, I mean, there's natural forms of electricity. I seen a video on Instagram like 2-3 years ago. Some Africans, you know, the stereotypical demonization of a people, just putting two rocks together and they lit up a bulb, a light. And that video, you already know what the government tries to do. Oh, fact check. They try to block it. Or if you see this is this fact checking. They'll fact check it, then they'll block it. And do you want to see this? And all that stuff. So, people gotta wake up, man. They lied about everything. Everything's a lie. Saving the world. Only truth is the Bible KJV version. No religions, no holidays. Just the Bible. No Christianity, no Catholic, no denomination of Christianity. Bible is truth, religions are lies. Wake up.
In order for you to build an empire, you need the blessings through God's people. They knew who they were getting over here. Right? There's more. A few more scriptures. Let's go to Acts, the 7th chapter. Acts 7. Last scripture. We got 2 minutes. Let's go to the 22nd verse and read it. Acts 7 and 22.
And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians.
And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians. Read.
And was mightily in words and in deeds.
He was mightily in words and in deeds. So we had all the wisdom of the Egyptians. And we're saying that, brothers, because you don't have to go to Egyptology to find yourself. You're not Hamitic. You're not an Egyptian. Brothers and sisters, especially you Negroes here in America that are spread throughout these different ghettos in the world, you're actually from the chosen seed of Israel. You have a rich heritage. You're not from the seed of Ham. They want you to think you're from the seed of Ham because Canaan was a cursed seed out of Ham. And it was told in the scriptures in Genesis 9 that Canaan would be a servant of servants. And they're teaching through this Christian doctrine that you were born to be a slave.
Yep, a philosophy of men.
Shalom.
Alright. I'll stream later.